Have you ever wanted your NPCs to actually remember how you treat them? Today we're going to build a clean, reusable relationship system in Godot 4.5, and you'll be able to drop it into any game in no time. Welcome back to Godot Dev Checkpoint. I ran a poll recently asking what systems you wanted to see most, and the relationship system won, but don't worry, we're going to do all of them. We're going to cover all these topics in separate videos in the order they were voted for. Now, creating social systems can get messy if you hard code them into every single enemy or shopkeeper. So today we're going to build a relationship component, a single brain that manages friendship, hatred, and everything in between. First, we'll build our component. Instead of just a script, we'll make it a scene. This lets us drag it and drop it into any character in our game instantly. All right, I'm here in a brand new project. I'm going to create a new scene. I'm going to use other node, just use regular node. And I'm going to rename this node to relationship component. Then I'm going to attach a script to this, the green icon there. Then I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to right click new folder, call it scripts. And I'm going to save relationship component GD in that and create. Then I'm going to control S and save the scene in a new folder called scenes. And then save it. Now let's define what a relationship actually is. At its core, it's just a number. We need a starting value, a maximum value, and a way to tell the rest of the game when that number changes. Now back in our relationship component script, I'm going to get rid of the boilerplate code. I'm going to add in some signals. So the first signal we're going to use is going to be called affinity, changed, and it's going to have a new amount passed into it. The second signal we're going to want to use is a relationship status changed. This is how we're going to track our friend and foe status or neutral. We're going to pass status into that, a new amount into the affinity change. And we need some export variables. First one we're going to use is current affinity. And we're going to have that to be int. We're going to start it at 50, so neutral. The next export variable we're going to use is max affinity. We're going to set that in to be 100. So for 100, we're friends. Then we need a minimum affinity. So if this is 0, we're going to be enemies. And we also need to set the friend and foe thresholds. So when to become friends, when to become enemies. So we're going to set that at 70 to be a friend. And for enemies, we're just going to go to 30. So foe or enemy threshold, we're going to set that into 30. So if it goes below 30, we're going to be enemies. Then we need a function here, and we're going to call change affinity, and we're going to change it by an amount, and int is going to be that amount. So say if we give a gift, or if we insult them, we're going to change that current affinity by that amount we're passing into this function. Well, then we also need to emit this signal to say this happened. So affinity changed. This is a signal. We're going to emit it. And what we're going to emit is the current affinity. Right there. So then we need to check for status changes. So check for status change. So if current affinity, right there, is greater than or equal to our friend threshold, well, we need to change our relationship status dot emit to friend, just like that. But if it's not, if the current affinity is less than or equal to the enemy threshold, well, we need to say the relationship status has changed again to enemy. But if it's neither of these things, well, it's going to be right in the middle. So the relationship status there is going to be emitted as neutral. Just like that. Go and save the script. Now you've reached your first checkpoint. Stop and look at the code what we just wrote. Current affinity plus equals amount. What happens if we add 1,000 to it or subtract 1,000? If we don't fix this, your player could have 5,000% love with a goblin or negative affinity with the merchant, breaking your game logic. We need to clamp it. So this variant here, clamp, value, variant, minimum to maximum. That's what we want to use to clamp our affinity. So back in our project, right below our current affinity here, we want to set our current affinity to equal a clamp. We want to set it between a variant, which is what we want to set to a minimum and a maximum. So go ahead and give it a try. Clamp our current affinity between the max and the min affinity. Give that a go and pause the video now. How'd that go? Did you get it? Let's go ahead and do it together if you didn't. That is just fine. So all we need to put here is our current affinity. We're going to clamp it between our min affinity and our max affinity. Oh, just like that. Make this bigger. So we should also have something that says, hey, what is our current and old affinities? So our new affinity, we're just going to print it to a debug console here. I'm going to print out our current affinity. And that's going to be a debug check. So you make sure this is going up and down as intended. The key takeaway here is always sanitize your data. Using clamp ensures your values never escape the boundaries you set, preventing game-breaking bugs later. Now for a little bit of magic. Because we saved our component as a scene, adding it to an NPC is effortless. And a number in the console is boring, so let's make that visual. We'll add a progress bar that updates automatically whenever our relationship changes. So I'm going to make this smaller here. I'm going to create a new scene, new scene. It's going to be a 2D scene. I'll rename the root node to NPC. I'll go back to my 2D scene here. I'm going to add a child node of sprite 2D. I'm going to use the Godot icon that comes with every project as my character. We also want our new relationship component in here. So the relationship component scene, we're going to drag and drop that onto NPC. And now we have it on our NPC. And what we're also going to do is add a progress bar to see the results. So add child node, NPC, which means a progress bar. So we can see how friendly or foe we are. Now the progress bar is selected. I'm going to go over to the inspector here. I'm going to turn off the percentage. I'm going to set the current value to 50, so neutral. I'm going to go down to layout, set the custom minimum size to 100 on the X so we can see it. I'm going to change the anchor presets to center. Now I'm going to go into my window here, zoom in a bit. I'm going to use my move tool. I'm going to drag this straight up. There we go. Right above our character's head. Then we're going to click on our root node, NPC. We're going to add a new script. We're going to put it in our scripts folder. Make sure scripts, open, scripts, create. I'll make this bigger. I'll go ahead and delete this boilerplate code. Once that's gone, I'll make this smaller again. So I can add some on-readies. So I need a relationship component reference. I'm going to click and drag and hold down Control and drop that. Now I have that in my script. And I also need the progress bar. Click, drag, Control, drop. Great. Now I have those. I'm going to make it bigger. Enter down a couple times. I'm going to create the ready function right there. And then I may click pass real quick as a placeholder. Enter down a couple times to create a function. It's going to be called onAffinity changed. And then we're going to take in a new value into this function, new val. And then what this is going to do is change the progress bar value with the new value. So when this function is called, it's going to change our progress bar. Then back in our ready function, we need to commit to this signal from the ready function in the relationship component. And the signal we want to commit to is the affinity changed, and we want to connect. And we want to connect with our function we just wrote, onAffinity changed. Now we have the brain and the visuals. Let's create a fake interaction to test it. We'll bind the spacebar to give a gift and escape to insult them. Our component also shouts out friend or enemy whenever the value crosses those lines. Let's make our NPC listen to it. Now we're going to go back to our NPC script and save it. And the NPC scene, we also need to save that. And back in our NPC script, I'll create a new function underneath onAffinity changed. It's going to be onStatus changed. A new status for our friend or foe. Now we're going to use, we'll just print out to the console as well. So our current status is going to be our new status. It helps if you do a underscore in between them. There we go. And then after that, well, we want a simple visual feedback. So we can see on the screen what's happening as well. So if new status is friend, well, we're going to change the progress bar to green. We just do progress bar, modulate, and we're going to change the color to green. Just like that. And then, well, for enemy, of course, I'm going to use red. So enemy, progress bar, modulate to red. There we go. And also, if for neutral, well, neutral usually runs the gray gambit. So we'll do progress bar, modulate, color, gray. There we go. Now we're going to connect this function to our relationship component. So back in our ready function, I'm going to connect the relationship component, the relationship status changed function, connect that to our new function of on status changed. Then save that. Now you add some input function here. So underneath the on status change, we're going to do an input event function to listen for our space bars and our escapes. So if event is action pressed, there we go. We want to look for UI accept. That's going to be our space bar. By default, Godot has a UI accept in it already, so we don't have to set that up. So space bar. Now, if that's pressed, well, this is going to be the give gift. There we go. And then we need to change our relationship component, change affinity to 10. And then, well, if we press escape, we want to do the opposite. So the event is action pressed. The cancel is the escape one. UI cancel. There we go. And then we want to set that to be it's going to usually the escape button. And if we do that, well, we want to print insulted. Right. We also want to change our relationship component, change affinity, and we want to do that to -10. We're going to go and save that, make this smaller, go back to our 2D scene. I'm going to zoom out here. I'm going to grab the NPC, use the move tool, and this is our viewport window. I'm going to drag our NPC to the middle so we can see them. Save, run the current scene. All right, now I'm going to drag up so we can see the console. I'll press spacebar, and we go up. Now we're a friend. We go up to 100. Then we stay at 100. Then escape, back down. Now we're neutral. We're back to gray. Now we're red. We're enemies. Down. Now we stay at 0. And just like that, you have a fully functional relationship component. The beauty of this is that the NPC script doesn't need to know how the math works. It just tells the component add 10, remove 10, and the component handles the signals, the clamping, and the logic. You can drag this specific node onto a shopkeeper to determine prices or a quest giver to unlock secrets. It's completely reusable. Expanding this, we can take this a step further and use resources to give our NPCs specific likes or dislikes, so you can't just spam the same gift over and over. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. Now, if you found this helpful at all or fun, leave a comment what your Godot game dev goals are. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It really helps out the channel. And thank you to all our current and past Patreon and Coffee members. Your generous support really keeps the channel moving. If you want early access to tutorials, source code, or suggesting future tutorials, please consider becoming a member yourself. The links are in the description. I'm Spaghetti Syntax, and remember, always stay curious.